Welcome back to the Musical Connections podcast. I'm your host, Zach Snow, and joining me now on Next to Connect, he is one half of the team that is putting off the Heavy Newfoundland and Labrador Festival, set to take place July 19th, 20th, and 21st in Corner Brook and in St. John's. At the Retro Arcade in Corner Brook will be on July 19th, and then 2 nights at the Rock House on July 19th and the 20th, and then at Pavlov's Electric Fernanda for an all-ages event on the 21st. One of the architects of that event coming up this coming weekend will be Ben Chapman Smith. He joins me on the Musical Connections podcast now to talk all about it. Welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you so much. This is very nice to be back here.
And
I guess first time being here, but nice to be doing this again
on the pod, because we did this back in February.
That sounds right.
And we were working on that since Music Celebration Week last year.
That's right, yep.
And now we're back here in the studio, second time on the podcast, another one of the two-time guests that I've had. And you're here for a very good reason. Coming up July 19th, 20th, and 21st, by the time that this drops, it'll be this coming Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Right. It is the second annual Heavy Newfoundland and Labrador Festival.
That's right. Very excited about it. It's going to be a big thing. Me and Greg, Sweet Apple, although he goes by many names, are really excited about putting this together. And I'm very stoked to be here to talk about it with you. So, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and so how did this all come together in the first place, this Heavy Newfoundland and Labrador Festival?
So, that's a good question. Really, last year I didn't have anything to do with it at all. HeavyNFLD has been going around for quite a long time as kind of a media outlet and local resource for, the loud artists or whatever, punk, metal, rock, alternative. That's been going on for quite a while, and I believe Greg has always kind of wanted to do some festival kind of a thing. And last year, I don't know all of the details for it, but I believe he was kind of going through on a tour, and he said, hey, let's do this. If I'm going to be coming through home anyway, I may as well throw something together. And so that was last year, and that seemed to go very well. And I was playing in a band, Precious Blood, the Order of the Precious Blood, and we were not able to be a part of that one that year. But this year, we had some other out-of-province acts interested in coming through because we did a lot of touring through Atlantic Canada, and we met a lot of people that were super excited about the idea of coming out here. Most notably, actually, last year, we brought out this really amazing band that you should all go check out if you like heavier music called Pale Lake. They're from Halifax, and it was just a really good time to bring them out and show them across the province, and they had a great time, and of course, they ended up telling their friends. So through that, basically, we've just kind of become... I keep on getting people reaching out to me about hey, can we come out too? We want to come out too, and making all these connections. And basically, in trying to figure out what plans were for the band originally, because there was so much influx, I was like, well, why don't we just kind of marry all this stuff together? I wouldn't mind. I knew Greg was considering doing a festival again this year, and having just finished Music Celebration Week, and I also have, been a promoter. I did some stuff in Toronto for quite a while and organized quite a few shows. I was like, well, this sounds like something that could be fun, and we had some history previously. I briefly wrote for the HeavyNFLD as an outlet, and I was like, well, this could be a cool way to kind of involve myself again, help give something back to the community, which is really the fundamental ethos of this. The entire festival is volunteer run. Nobody is getting paid anything for this. We're paying out of pocket because we want to do stuff for the scene. We want to create stronger relationships between Newfoundland and Atlantic Canada. We want to showcase underrepresented rock, punk, metal artists in this province. And it was kind of like, well, if nobody else is going to make the infrastructure, then let's make the infrastructure. Mm-hmm. So it just kind of was this beautiful confluence of events where it was like, well, all these things are lining up, so we may as well do this. And then it just kind of, we became bolder and bolder and decided to make it bigger and bigger and go for more and more stuff. So
oh yeah.
So that's the long-winded version. That's pretty much everything you need to know.
No surprise with a long-winded answer. The last time you had you on, you wouldn't shut up.
You're not wrong. I do like to talk.
But that's not a bad thing either, and you have a lot of stories to tell,
in an interview, it's, I feel, maybe even a good thing at times.
Oh, yeah, pretty much. But did you attempt to go for funding for this event, or is this just going to be say, I'll volunteer, and then next year go for funding?
So, I'll let you in on, all the information again. So basically, no. This year we did not go for funding. We did look at I've done a number of events where we've looked at sponsorships and stuff like that, and I'm very familiar with grants that are available out here. And for me, again, this kind of began as like helping 3 awesome touring bands across the province, which you should also all go listen to. They're called Hell's Reach, Thousand Knives, and Fear and Filth. And for me, to get to your answer, it was this entire thing kind of sprouted around helping create these more connections to bring out of province acts in. And I was like, okay, well, cool, we can do that. We can also use this as an opportunity to show off all these other people. So by the time it got to things like fundraising and sponsorships, et cetera, especially as a volunteer, I was like, I want to do as much as I can, but I feel like maybe pursuing all of that this time is too much. So the hope is really just to kind of go as DIY as possible. Believe it or not, this is DIY. I did think that part of that was smart because I'm aware that there's a Volunteer of the Year award for MusicNL, so there was a little bit of hope that like, hey, maybe this will all go over well and get some acknowledgement, and then in following years we could say, listen, we could do this on our own. Imagine if you helped support this, what we could collaborate on together as a province and as a city.
For sure, and I would imagine you would probably qualify for industry professional as well, because you're growing a part of the industry that I think sometimes goes under the radar quite a bit in the heavy music scene.
I think it does. People get really kind of animated about this conversation because music's something people get very passionate about. And I think that's the case. I don't think that that's necessarily that there's people to blame so much as it is that we just need to do what we can to rise it up. Sometimes when you play niche music in markets that are not mass, like I'm from Toronto, where a lot of the stuff is really well sustained because there's so many people that niche can sustain a lot more, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm sorry, I kind of just trailed off.
No, but like, do you find that like because of that market being so niche here in St. John's?
Yes.
Do you think that may have to do with like the accessibility of venues? Because you're at the Rock House for 2 nights, and then you have Pavlov's Logic Fernanda for Sunday. Do you think there's a lack of venues to support this heavy metal music?
So that's a great question. I'm going to try to, if I can, recall everything. So first of all, I think there are a number of venues in this city that do. And I think I love how many cool promoters are out there. I see you guys doing wicked stuff, booking bowling alleys, but like all these kind of creative, cool places to put music on, which I think is like the most punk rock. And like I love that energy of like I'm passionate about this, so we're going to make it happen. Do I think that there's an overwhelming amount of industry support? I think it's a growing thing. No, to be honest, no, I don't think there is. I think there is a growing thing, and I try not to fault people for that, but rather be the change you want to see. Because, there's a lot of things that would be nice in the world, but like they're not going to happen unless people put time and effort into them. So there's certainly restrictions. I do find personally, compared to Toronto as a overall thing, you could make arguments that it's a little bit less receptive to the genre. There's certain places. I remember in Corner Brook seeing some people that were very even upset that there was like metal music around. Like, this is horrible. It's like, that's a bunch of young people's passion, man. Like it's a good thing. So I do think there's a little bit more, but I think that a lot of those issues usually actually stem from people just not listening to what venue owners' interests and problems are. There's a lot of people that try to just push what they want, and it's like, this should be this way. And it's like, yeah, but like, Stevie doesn't really want people moshing around their bar and ruining everything, and it costs money at XYZ. And like, that's also valid. If you run your own business, you shouldn't have to answer to mob justice that's like, let my thing be here or else I'll ruin your, which is kind of, I don't think anybody's doing that, but I think sometimes it can feel that way when you're not getting opportunities for your style of music or what your passion is. Mm-hmm. And if you are feeling that way, I totally empathize, but also just use that to create new opportunities for people like HeavyNFLD Fest, right? Like, this is the thing. It's, it not only struck us as, a gap in the market, like a very clear gap in the market. For years I've been seeing people say, and there's some concerts and concert series that do well, like Iceberg Alley they brought Pup and Billy Talented, which is great, but there's a ton of people that want heavier metal acts, and there just isn't a lot of demand for that, but the market's constantly asking for it, so there's clearly people that would support it. And then if you add on the nice idea of rising up your community and helping create these opportunities for more people. Because I really truly believe, like, if you invest in your local music, you will find stuff that you will care significantly more about than, I think that's even more true today than a lot of the stuff you'll see on streaming platforms.
Yeah, and exactly one of the main reasons starting this podcast to bring all the music together so that way anyone can give your kind of music or even the jazz scene or
I applaud you for it. I really
country
do.
music or rock or pop. Like rock, pop, and country are like really heavily focused.
Sure.
But even the hip hop scene and heavy music scene, to me, like don't really get that covered enough. And there is a gap in that market
Sure.
for someone to really cover it. And I won't forget what Dave Connors, who goes by Sarcasticon, said to me. I'm kind of feeling a void that the Overcast left when they were discontinued in 2019.
Yeah.
And where do you feel? How do you feel Heavy Newfoundland and Labrador has filled in that gap of covering that kind of music in the province?
Well, that's a great question. So I'm going to answer that as more of a fan of the outlet because, again, while I am kind of working in a volunteer capacity for the festival this year, this is really, I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm like a full consistent part. We haven't had that conversation at least.
Oh, no.
So as a fan and as somebody that has benefited from Heavy NFLD around, I would say it does very, very well considering. Greg does it all volunteer. He's putting an amazing amount, especially considering that he's not always in the province, right? He's usually located in Montreal. So he'll take trips, but he does an incredible amount just because he cares about metal music and creating opportunities in his community in this province.
Yeah, but he's originally from here too, right?
He is from Glovertown, yeah.
Glovertown, yeah.
And he spent a lot of his life here. And again, like, we are really lucky to have that kind of stuff. I think he does a really good job. I think his reach is unreal. I think it's a very demanding thing, and I'm very impressed that he's kept it up this long. And you should all support that too. If you want to write, this is a great way to get into stuff too. If you are out there, what I think it does really well is it has a great balance of informality with outreach, which allows people at almost any stage to benefit from it. So if you're a touring band, it's still the outlet you should hit if you're here because it's going to get the most immediate eyes on it, I think. I think that's arguable for the genre. But it's also so accessible that if you're just starting out your band, if you're like 16 and it's your first band, guarantee you, if you message Greg, he's going to put you guys up. And that's part of it. It's like, it should be, fostering that community. I'm just going to keep on talking about how community is great this entire time.
Oh, 100%.
The hardcore trait is just community. So I think it does a good job. Do I think that there's always room for improvement? That's part of who I am. Yeah, for sure. I think that there's always more. And I would be excited to see how it could grow. There's always lots of ideas, but I think Greg's doing a fantastic job. So.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Greg is definitely someone I want to get on this podcast. And anyone really that's helped, growing a music scene, that takes a lot of work and a lot of effort. And really, like, you're probably getting paid very little or not getting paid at all. You're just really doing it for the love of growing the music.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, specifically, too, that it is a news outlet because there's a lot of people that will help work in the industry in various capacities, but, like, you do not see that many sustained, digital news outlets run by a single person. So, like, it's pretty impressive. It's pretty impressive.
Very impressive.
Hats off.
Big time.
Technology.
Now, for this Heavy Newfoundland and Labrador Festival, I believe you got about 35 to 40 bands as part of it, or I'm
a little
probably
bit less. I like those numbers. I would.
But you're bringing some acts from Nova Scotia as well, so tell me a bit more about that.
Yes, we are bringing 3 fantastic acts from Nova Scotia. I think I may have mentioned them already, but I will mention them many times. Thousand Knives, Fear and Filth, Hell's Reach. They're, I guess you could kind of broadly categorize them as hardcore, although there's certainly, differences between them that are significant. I don't know what to say other than that they're amazing bands. Like, they are... To really have a conversation about it, you have to be at least a little bit familiar with what modern hardcore is looking like, especially in, not especially in Atlantic Canada, but very aggressive, powerful, moving music. I'm super excited. You should just listen to them. Just trust me.
Oh, yes. And
go listen to them, and then I'll see you at the show.
Yeah, and tell them about the look on your face. You're pretty excited because that's, I believe that's one that you really wanted to get here at Newfoundland and Labrador for a show.
The conversations revolving around some of these bands has been going on for at least, I would say, close to a year and a half.
Jeez.
Now that's not that we've been having conversations with them.
Oh, yeah.
But I know Thousand Knives has been coming up in my around me about getting them out there for towards 2 years. And then they reached out, I think. I don't even know if I was the one that ended up reaching. I think it was probably one of those things where, small conversations here and there led to it. But I am excited.
From the Newfoundland and Labrador acts that you're going to be featuring as part of this festival,
yes.
Who are you excited to see that's from here?
That's a great question. So I am really picky usually with my curating and stuff like that. I'm very excited. I don't think I picked a single bad band. I'll give you a couple that I'm excited to see. They may not always be the reasons that everybody else is going to be excited to see them, but Dodge Band is a band I'm excited to see. It's kind of a buddy of mine that I kind of kept on running into at various... I worked at a music store for a while, and he interviewed there, and I ran into him and a couple other places, and then I happened to find out he's playing drums in this band. So Dodge Band I'm excited to see. Always Smoke Signals and Of the Black. Disparita live is going to be sick. I could just basically go off and list the entire festival right now.
Yeah, I believe Nerve Shack is playing that festival too.
Sorry?
I believe Nerve Shack is playing that festival.
Nerve Shack is now also playing. They are going to be opening the All Day, All Ages. So, I don't know, man. To say which bands am I excited about, to me it is the entire festival. Because when I think about how I organize this stuff, I really think about how... energy is going to flow between bands and how the day will go. So kind of, I guess you could look at it as you could focus on a song, but then you could also focus on a set, but then you could also focus on a series of sets. And that's kind of like the community All Day, All Ages is going to be awesome. Going down to Corner Brook to stimulate that economy and to see Paranoia again and to play with Dwight for the first time is going to be fantastic. They've got a bunch of buddies in those bands. So it's really the more I talk about it, the more I'm just like, oh yeah, and them and that. I'm going to feel bad if I leave anybody out on it.
No, absolutely.
But there's a couple other bands. I can't wait to see Liz Fagan Band. I haven't seen them play live yet.
Oh yeah, Liz Fagan's someone I've had on the podcast before, and she's probably one of the biggest supporters of this podcast since I've launched it.
That's awesome. I'm also really stoked that we decided to involve... Originally, the All Day, All Ages was going to open up with a acoustic act, and long story short is, unfortunately, it's not going to be able to happen. Shout out Lee. But, we kind of pivoted, and I'm really happy with having an element of the festival that is not just all heavy metal and punk. There is... Though I think this year we kind of just focused on... getting some of the more aggressive acts, I would argue. Not certainly exhausting what's out there, but certainly that was kind of the target. I think the more that we do this, the more we're going to kind of be aware of trying to showcase and share light with different aspects of heavier music, because I do think, admittedly, the barrier to entry is a little bit greater than that for more kind of popular styles of music. And the onus kind of is on us to kind of deliver with this and to show okay, listen, if you think that all the screaming music sounds the same, then what if you look at this and then this and then this and then this and you go, oh, actually, I don't really like this super hardcore death metal stuff, but some of the kind of riff rock oriented, stoner rock stuff is really my jam, right? So I'm excited with what we have this year, but I'm also excited to share more different genres next year.
Because you have a bunch of genres at this festival too. You got punk music, you got grunge music, which I believe Nerve Shack is
Nerve Shack,
as
Alter,
their genre.
Yeah, Nerve Shack, Alter. I suppose you could even throw Little Fauna in there. It's all kind of broad. Genres are really handy when you're 16 and when you're in a record store.
Yeah, and I think Needlecrafts are part of that as well, aren't they?
Needlecrafts, you could certainly. I feel like I may refer to them as emo. I feel like that's the branding I've seen associated. That's not necessarily by my call, but what I've seen associated. But that's the kind of the point, right? Is genres can be a little bit, they can oversimplify.
Yeah.
And again, I think the exciting thing is that we have a lot of different styles of bands, especially on that all ages, that are going to complement each other nicely. Another one I'm excited to see is Bread Clip, actually, an older student of mine, not older, but a previous student of mine. I remember them talking about this project from way back, and I haven't seen them live yet. And they're more, I think they describe themselves as power pop and indie, and again, just like a nice, refreshing change where it's not going to all just be the same stuff the whole day.
So this is the second year that you're doing this festival.
First year.
First year that you're doing the festival, but it's the second
year of
festival
the festival
itself.
That's right, yes.
How did you get involved with all this? I believe you mentioned a bit about it before, but dive more into why you wanted to get involved in this project.
I'll try to just summarize because I did kind of go on about that. So I briefly wrote for HeavyNFLD when I first moved here, just because I wanted to do as many things as I possibly could do. And I didn't ultimately keep up with that. It was always in a volunteer capacity, and I got a little bit too busy and my interests changed. I tend to do that. I'm a very multi-passionate person, so I can be super gung-ho about something, and then they don't all stand the test of time. So with that history and the opportunities that were coming to me and the knowledge that Greg was going to continue to do HeavyNFLD Fest, I kind of thought, well, I should reach out to him and talk to him about helping out with this because I have a strong skill set with it, or at least a decent one. And I want to grow it more, and I want to contribute to the community. And it felt like it was a great brand that a lot of out-of-province acts were aware of. And I think that's going to be ultimately really useful. I mean, there's a bit of value to the fact that, Heavy Montreal and Heavy TO exist, and then you go HeavyNFLD, and it's like, well, people are going to associate things. I don't know if that was intentional or not. I'm not sure if I should be saying this or not, but to me, that kind of made sense. And it's like, well, I would like to, again, be able to offer to benefit my community. You know what I mean? I'd like to use what I have to do things that I care about, like I was saying before. Like if you feel like you don't have enough shows or places to play, go create some. Mm-hmm. So I thought it was kind of just a great opportunity for me to reach out and say, hey, listen, let's team up and work on this. And Greg was super receptive to it. And now I should point out, too, at this point that it's not just me and Greg. We also have the help of Billy Hamilton down in Corner Brook, who, shout out Billy, is fantastic with organizing shows down there and has been super helpful. We also have Abby Pye, who's helping with a bunch of logistics and consulting stuff.
Oh, she's great.
Fantastic. And Paul Brake, too, is helping out with social media stuff. So, yeah, my boys, the homies, shout out. Couldn't do it without them. Seriously, it's it really is a team effort. And Kyle Crotty as well is going to be helping stage manage. And I have some sound techs. Brad Ivan, he's going to be helping out. It really is, and that's kind of the nice thing about this too, is like it's a lot of work, but like when you kind of zoom out and go like, oh, it's just a bunch of people that are like working together for free for things that they care about. It's like, man,
yeah, and
like isn't that the nicest story
yes,
you've
and you
ever
hope this
heard?
becomes something bigger, and you actually get some money backed behind this and sponsors and funding and stuff like that.
I thank you for that. I hope so too. And I think we've seen some, pretty, at the very least, encouraging responses. And, for sure, we want to grow things and money is important, all that stuff. But like the important thing is that people take the time in their communities to do these things.
Exactly.
And I know there's this weird psychotic belief that like if you make $1 billion this year, you have to make $2 billion next year to be successful. Mm-hmm. I don't subscribe to that. I think that's dangerous.
Yeah, consistency for that is key, though.
For me, if I pulled off another 30-band festival next year, great. Let's
Perfect.
do this. You know what I mean? Like that's so while I certainly like the idea of things growing, to me it's kind of like, if you nurture something, it doesn't have to be pushy in that way. Like it'll do its thing. It'll be what it's supposed to be. I have faith. If people want to support this kind of a thing, they will, and it will grow. And that's it.
Now, absolutely. So we did mention this in the last time I've had you on the podcast here.
Between drinks, I love it.
Coffee on the left
cold,
and
hot, cold. You get them both in the shot.
Oh yes, absolutely. Give some love to them. But last time when I had you on the podcast, we talked about the state of heavy metal music and heavy music in Newfoundland and Labrador. Do you echo that same sentiment that you had the last time I had you on, or has that changed?
I honestly cannot fully recall the sentiment I had at that time. I'll tell you what I can do. Can you run the question by me one more time?
So basically, like, I believe you said
state
like it's a strong scene in
Yeah.
Newfoundland and Labrador. So do you echo that same sentiment today versus when I had you back on in February? Like, do you feel like
Sure.
the heavy music scene is still as strong now as it was back in February?
I do. Yeah, absolutely, I do. I think that's a great question. So I'll answer it this way. Yeah, I think it around that time. I think I was probably commenting on. We were probably still. Well, some of that answer may have had to do with getting out of COVID times, and I think I may have included that in my answer, where I just kind of said that there has been a growth not only in Newfoundland but and Labrador, but Atlantic Canada, Nova Scotia. I'm seeing all over the place. There's just a lot of bands that had that creative energy to create something, plus standard bands. So there was it seemed like a lot.
So do you hope this festival will achieve and help start a genesis of a strong and healthy heavy scene in the province?
Well, what I was getting onto with that is, so provided that was my answer, yeah, I think from what I have seen from that outflux of that COVID era of musicians that had all this pent-up energy to do stuff, I have only seen things continue to grow. I have not seen any venues close or stop allowing heavy shows to happen, which by the way happens all the time in cities around Canada, and then their scenes die. So like, be respectful of venues and be grateful when they let you play there. Just a heads up.
And go to the venues
it's a privilege a lot of the time. Sorry.
Yeah, and go to the venues to support them.
Yeah, it's really important. And it kind of sucks that sometimes the job gets broken down to like, well, sell beer or else things don't work, and it's kind of insane that is what we're bound to. But at the same time, that is the game we're playing, so let's make sure that these people all keep their doors open so that they can let us in.
100%.
So yeah, I think it's going really well. There's so many different like little sub pockets of the scene, which I am loving just see develop and grow, and it's really cool seeing people kind of, again, create opportunities for themselves and others. And I'm seeing lots of bands pop up, and I think that we're hopefully going to see more out of province artists come in, and I think as that happens, I think that it's like the tides. You have to kind of bring people in, and that'll create connections that you can then hopefully get more people out, and then hopefully that'll make more people want to come in, and then eventually things will strengthen. That's kind of my hope. So not only does it seem to be doing well locally, but I'm very hopeful for other collaborations, again, with outside of province, Atlantic Canada especially.
Yeah, and you mentioned about nurturing. Like, I would probably compare this to planting a little tree seedling. You plant it, you keep watering it and nurturing it. You probably have the tree like a little baby tree, but once you get more festivals in and get more connections made, you can then grow that tree into a big oak tree. Sure. And then you have all those connections in there from the just the Newfoundland and Labrador acts plus the maritime acts, and maybe get a big act like say because you mentioned off the air or on the air here that Billytown and Pup came to town for the Iceberg Alley Performance Tent.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other great hardcore and heavy acts outside of Canada and across the world that could possibly come here to Newfoundland to play a show.
Absolutely, yeah.
Do you hope to reach that point?
That's a good
and
question.
If so, who would you like to bring down here for a show to Newfoundland?
So that's
if it gets to that
on
point.
A surface level, that may seem like of course you want your festival to grow bigger, and of course, yes, that is part of it. I think a big thing that I would like to see happen as a result of this. Not that I could put it all onto this festival, but something that I would like to see happen beyond just bringing big acts out here. Like, yeah, sure, bringing Metallica down here would be sick. That'd be, you know what I mean? Like, I kind of making a joke of the question, but like, what I would like to see is for the community as it is, without worrying about these superstar high, ridiculously high-end performers coming in. I'd just like to see more industry representation and more legitimate ways to maintain this for people of that, working class level, I guess. Maybe that's kind of a weird way to phrase it, but I want to see things be easier for the local bands. I want to see more opportunities for the local bands. Yeah, it would be amazing to book dude, if I could book Billytown one day, that would be sick. For sure, and I would do that. And there's part of me that thinks, as the festival grows, and I'm not the only one that speaks to this, but I think it would be certainly very interesting to take that approach. I think a lot of people would be very interested just to see on that very audience-facing perspective of how big can we make this. But for me, I think I would like to see movement on the industry side. I would like to see reasons to bring bookers and promoters and other festival people out to these shows to see our talent, to bring that out. And to me, that could even just be identifying in Atlantic Canada, bringing out some ridiculously strong acts and being kind of a funnel for these, whatever buyers, festival promoters, again, bookers and such on, to kind of come out and see the talent. But to be honest, I'm not quite at the point where I've run through these ideas. It's kind of all like, this could be cool, which is...
But you think it could be something about 5-10 years down the line, maybe? If this ends up becoming more successful?
Do I think... Sorry, say that again?
I mean, you gotta have like a 5 or 10 year goal to like...
You
get
do.
Like a big name act
you
to
do.
Get it in.
To me, this is proof of concept still, and we are a couple weeks out from the festival. And by all means, I have every intention and interest of doing this, but it's going to be a bigger conversation than just mine. So, while I am prone to delusions of grandeur, and I have all kinds of things that'll. Yeah, man.
But
we're bringing Slayer, baby.
Yes,
Come on.
listen, you gotta think that in the back of your mind, though.
It's going to sound incredibly boring, but no, in the back of my mind, I want to create... The things I want to do are like... It's more grassroots oriented. It's like one of my favorite things. I keep on seeing people do this at shows, and I've done this a couple of times because I saw somebody else do it, and I was like, yeah. Just yell at people to start bands and shit. You know what? Like, I want to see people be more incentivized to be comfortable to express themselves regardless of artistic genre. I don't care about the grandstanding for really big bands. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some huge artists that I think 100% that would be the coolest thing to see them perform. I get that, but for me, my real interest is helping the people that are part of this community, the heavy metal punk scene and such like that, and to create more opportunity. That's what gets me excited, is to be like, all right, look at that. Like, I don't know. It's a cool place to be, you know? And I think that it's so weird that it's wasted. Or that it's not, that the angle of supporting, sorry, I should be more clear on that. I think that there's a lot of opportunity to bring bands from out of province in and to support getting bands from the province out of province. And I think that kind of cross-pollination is going to be a really interesting thing for not only this community, but for the rest of Canada. And to me, being a come from away and coming out here and seeing how beautiful this is, and knowing that there's so many bands that want to do this, but there isn't infrastructure to support it, it's like... It's a shame, right? So like that's what I get really like if I look at my goals, if I were to do like a 1, 5, 10, 15, 25 for this or something like that, year plan, it would mostly be around like how many people can I book a tour? Like I want to do stuff like, I don't know if this is going to happen, so don't hold me to this, but no. I love the idea for next year of not only doing, a couple genre stages, but even potentially trying to organize some kind of tour for bands that normally wouldn't do this.
Yeah.
So like if we're gonna if lots of ifs, lots of what ifs, but if we did something where it was multiple different cities, where we could actually coordinate a tour to create that opportunity for people that hate grant writing or hate that kind of planning or don't have that skill set, whatever.
Or it could be helpful for them for their grant writing down the road.
Well, and that's it too, right? Like there was a bit of a reaction to a clause in like a little document I wrote. Listen, guys. When you have to book 30 bands, you have to have a lot of small conversations, and sometimes people will write a document so they don't have to have every single one of those conversations with you. So there was. I'm kind of brain farting on where I was going with that, but I have a.
Like when it comes to booking 30 bands, they can put like one of their thoughts into like a whole document. You were there.
Well, zoom me back for a second. What was the question that just brought me to that point?
So
I apologize for the lapse in.
I kind of forget myself. But
sorry. These things happen. It was, it was something to the effect.
Developing acts. And
yes.
Having like a tour of St. John's and Corner Brook.
So there was a radius clause in this, which I,
festival.
by the way, made massive exceptions around, just because I just wanted to make sure that I could, as a volunteer, not have to also pay hundreds of dollars to make these touring bands make it worth it, right? So I put a radius clause in, which basically limits performances in an area for a brief period of time. Everyone can say no to this, and everyone also was encouraged to reach out to me if this was an issue. I didn't put that in because I care about that. I put that in because it's like, do you guys want more stuff like this to happen? You're going to see more of this stuff, like little bits where it's like, hey, guess what? Now you know what a contract like this looks like. And you may be like, this is dumb and I hate it, which is completely valid because it is mud. A lot of the time, working through that stuff, I get it. But it's also like, if we want to grow this scene, you got to do all these little things to kind of stimulate. And like, it's kind of, I don't know, maybe it sounds a little bit weird that I would even try to take that on. I'm not trying to say that I'm going to be the change in it. But again, it's
But you're gonna play
I have
like a small piece of the
opportunities that I
puzzle.
have, and I'm going to go, hey, listen, like for those of you that are interested, there's this, and like. To me, it is coming, even though it may not necessarily be received as such, it's coming from a place of like, start a band. It's
Yes.
coming from a place of like, level up, like understand how draw works. Like, do you really love this? Do you really, really love this? Take a second and don't just reactively take every show you're given. Look at how this works and like be a part of it and grow it, because then the shows get better. Your band gets better.
Yeah. Just be more methodical about it.
That's what I believe. And there's also a completely legitimate part of that, which is you're musicians, follow your passions and do whatever the hell you want to do, or heck you want to do. So while I can approach things from that point, it's not necessarily always everybody's favorite perspective, and that's valid too.
But I was also just gonna say, like, you don't really have to be like the sole person making that change. You can be part of a small piece or like of a bigger puzzle. And especially with the team that you have behind you, I mean, you mentioned Abby Pye, you mentioned Greg Sweet Apple, Kyle Crotty, like a bunch of these names that are coming together to pull off this festival. You're all part of like a bigger picture that can help make this into a healthier, more consistent music scene. Like especially with like heavy
there's
music.
Industry side, and part of that is learning about the industry and sharing that knowledge with people. Because you know what I mean. Like if you were working as a it is what it is. Sharing that knowledge from the industry is an important thing. I just want to clarify too. I was just kind of saying in a weirdly self-analytical point that I don't want it to sound as though I am looking at it as though I'm doing that. I do not think that that's what's happening. But it is a place where it's kind of like, well, this is what I can contribute to it. So here's a little bit I have. So yeah. Anyway.
But for the most part, I'm gonna put you on the spot here.
Yeah.
MusicNL and the East Coast Music Association. You said you needed some more industry representation.
Yes.
And MusicNL and the East Coast Music Association are two of the big organizations that help with the music industry development.
Yes.
So this is gonna be towards Tamara Cater and her team. Tamara Cater, the new executive director, and Blanche Israel, the CEO of the East Coast Music Association.
What have I done? Yes.
You've done something very terrible, my friend.
Oh no, yes.
No, but like this is just like a suggestion to anybody that maybe listen to this. What do you hope MusicNL and the East Coast Music Association do to help, develop and cultivate the heavy music scene in Newfoundland and Labrador to help, grow into what you want it to become?
Absolutely. I commend the work they're all doing. They're all making changes in time that works for their situation, and I couldn't pretend that I am also researching these businesses to follow this on a very strong level. But I personally feel that there is nothing that anyone is doing to hold the communities back. My understanding of things is fundamentally that you have to have a certain number of performers. So if we're going to talk about, again, developing infrastructure, specifically referring to that point about getting industry representation, okay? So if we wanted to justify bringing a promoter or a booker out that specializes in this genre or has a festival in this genre, it also is required that we can supply that many artists of that genre, because you can't have, you know what I mean? Like when you have, a lot of Newfoundland's export is a lot of traditional music and folk music and singer-songwriter oriented music, which makes it very easy to book your people that are going to come in and create opportunities for them, because it's going to be a sure hit. There's going to be festivals that focus on that style of music and festivals that focus on other styles of music. So basically, all they have to do is work with us. And I don't think that anyone's showing any resistance to that. And I think that inside of all of these organizations, there is a awareness that this is a growing style of music. I also feel like hip hop and stuff like that is in a very similar boat. I think there's a lot of modern styles of music that are growing, and sure, it can be frustrating experiencing those growing pains and waiting for things to happen that aren't happening yet. But I think a lot of it has to do with logistical issues that aren't necessarily a matter of intent, right? It's not like they could just kind of change an attitude and automatically everything would be amazing. It's like you have to understand, it has to come from both ends. As a scene, we have to realize what we can do to make it easier for them to help us. We have to help them help us. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's what my entire thing with this is. That's what the entire argument is. Like, if we can bring acts out here, we can bring enough talented acts that are at touring level, that have a proven track record, that understand merch and draw, and are willing to talk about these kinds of contracts. And if we can get a handful of those people, then it becomes not only justified, but like a really good idea for these organizations to bring specific representatives that are targeting that kind of market. But until that's represented locally, like until we see artists that are trying to do that, it just won't happen.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very complicated situation. I can't say much more than just work with us. And
No,
I
absolutely.
think they are. And I think they are. Yeah.
And just starting to work with us, like, still goes a long way to, like, getting to that goal that you really want to achieve.
So so should I tell you what I would like to achieve? Is that what you're saying?
No. I'm just saying, like, even just working with people and, like, starting that initial conversation,
Yes.
and starting those little chats,
Yes,
can really go a long way to
Absolutely
help
can.
you reach that goal that you want to achieve. That's what I said.
Can. Yes. Sorry, I misunderstood.
No,
Yeah,
all good.
Absolutely. That's everything. Communication and being clear to people is everything. Like, hey, so yeah, I mean. Hi, it would be great if we could do some more stuff with heavy bands, guys. We'll show up if you show up. Promise.
For sure.
Promise.
Now, July 20th, 21st, and it all starts on the 19th in Corner Brook, the Retro Arcade. And it's also going to be at the Rock House as well in St. John's.
Yes.
Plus, the 20th is in the Rock House, and then Pavlov's Electric Fernanda. For people who want to go down and see some great heavy acts, how can they get tickets, and how can they, attend the show?
Absolutely. So the easiest way to find this is if you go to our Instagram, HeavyNFLD Fest, at HeavyNFLD Fest. In the bio, you'll find a quick little link tree that will send you to tickets. Tickets are all at a discount rate from what you will pay at door. At door, both Corner Brook shows will be $15 each. St. John shows will all be $25 each. If you buy tickets in advance, Corner Brook is $30. Sorry, $25. And there was some ticketing fees, so it was hopefully going to be a little bit less, but it was $25. And St. John's is $50. So you basically get pay for two shows in St. John's, and you can go to all three of them for free.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, for people who want to find out more about, Ben Chapman Smith, and also about, like, Heavy Newfoundland and Labrador, heavynfld.com, I believe, is the website for that. What about yourself?
That's correct. My social media game is not super strong right now. I do have a website that I haven't updated recently, benchapmansmith.com. I feel like I have too many things going on to make it super clear to everybody for where to follow me, but Ben Chapman Smith Music is usually the moniker. I'm doing a lot of stuff. You can find me. I'm hosting the Ship open mics, but I do a lot of AV and lessons and like artist development stuff like that, and studio stuff. So if you want to catch me for any of that stuff, Ben Chapman Smith Music at Instagram or Facebook is definitely the best place to do that.
Well, Ben, I'm super excited for you guys to have a great Heavy Newfoundland and Labrador Festival, and hopefully this becomes a multi-year thing, or maybe say like a bi-year thing.
Fingers
but hopefully
crossed.
you can reach that goal of like 5 or 10 years, maybe bring in an act like a Billy Talent, or maybe like a Slayer, as you mentioned.
I mean,
but it's kind of a stretch. But like even then too, like it's got to be a goal you want to try to reach.
If we're realistically looking at a 10-year thing, I'm sure that there's going to be some cool stuff like that.
Well, Ben, thank you so much for joining me on the Musical Connections podcast once again. Best of luck with the Heavy Newfoundland and Labrador Festival, July 19th to the 21st.
Thank you so much, man. It was a great time.